Blessings and shalom. Blessings and shalom. So good to be here tonight, guys, on this Tuesday night Torah teaching live. TNT every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock p.m. is going down. Pastor Ben's BEIT EMUNAT Torah, that is House of Torah Faith, guys. We're here every week, consistently, faithfully, bringing the heat, bringing the truth, and we won't stop. We won't stop. It's like it's sort of like we're like a monsoon just raining down on you. Truth from Scripture, guys. And I'm so excited to be here tonight. To be in, excuse me, this very few number of faithful, faithful Bible teachers. To be honest, we're going to continue with our something went down the wrong eating earlier. Something went down the wrong way, man. I was coughing and I didn't feel right. Anyway, we're going to continue in our Hanukkah series. And guys, let me say this: or not Hanukkah, but Chanukah series. And let me say this. I know we were going to do certain days for Hanukkah. But you know what? I just decided to go ahead and do Chanukah, sorry, until the 22nd. So what that means is today is Tuesday the 9th. I have a birthday coming up Thursday. Oh yes, December 11th. Right? And so I'm looking forward to thanking the Most High. I thank him every day, but really thanking him for another year, allowing me to see 55, man. It's a blessing. It's a blessing, I'm telling you. I'm still running up and down the court. I just finished, as a matter of fact, today. I ref two games, two basketball games, and still able to run up and down the court, man. And I'm thankful. For those of you who know me, you know that that is not only a miracle, but it is a blessing. Just super grateful. Anyway, um, yes, Hanukkah starts on the 14th. That's this coming Sunday evening, and it goes all the way to Monday. So what that means for our teaching schedule, I'm going to be teaching tonight on Hanukkah. I'm going to be teaching on Shabbat on Hanukkah. I'm going to be teaching on Sunday night on Hanukkah to start us off. And then I'll be back on Tuesday and Sunday as well. Okay. And so that's going to be like about five. Let me see. Is it five? Let's see. One, two, three, four. Yeah, that's about five different lessons. And so we're gonna go really deep. We're gonna go into this, and we're gonna dig deep when it comes to learning about and understanding. I'm kind of putting some principles out that I believe is going to bless us, are going to bless us. And if you remember the lesson from last week, we're going to review it a little bit tonight. But if you remember the lesson from last week, we know that Hanukkah is not a alternative for Christmas. No, it's not about the oil that burned for 8 days. It's not even about the Hanukkahs. That's not even biblical. Um, and so we know that we use the menorah And so we're going to learn all about why the 8 days and all that stuff, guys. We're going to go into it. We're going to dig deep, and I believe we're going to be blessed. Okay. And so last week we talked about the origin of, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to get into that. I want to jump right in. I want to jump right in. But turn with me to the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 8. Now, you cannot address Chanukah properly without addressing a few books. You gotta address Daniel. You know, there's a few books. You could even look at Zechariah, um, and the Maccabees, of course. But notice, if you noticed last week, we didn't even start in the book of Maccabees. We started with Genesis chapter 14. And tonight we're starting with Daniel chapter 8. And so we're going to jump right in. So, Daniel chapter 8, if you can turn with me there, we're going to get started. Guys, do me a favor before we get started. Thumb up the video, share the live, and we're going to jump right in. I need to thumb up the video and share the live. I need to share the live, actually. I thumbed it up already, and I'm going to share it on all my platforms, guys. That means I'm going to share it on Facebook. I'm going to share it on the Gram. I'm going to share it on Messenger. I'm going to share it on all of my excuse me, all of man, my platforms, and I want the word to get out. Okay, so Daniel chapter 8, we're going to start in Daniel chapter 8. Now, there's a reason why I'm not starting in Daniel chapter 7, and we're going to touch on it a little bit, but I want to really jump to Daniel chapter 8, right? And we're going to start in verse, let's see. You know, we should start in verse, why not? We're going to start in verse 1. I know on the screen it says verse 5, but we're going to start in verse 1. All right. So, guys, do me a favor. Thumb up the video, share the live, grab your notes. You're going to need them. Grab your notes, your pencils, your pens, everything you need to go in with me tonight. This is not good. This, man, drink some more high quality H2O. Daniel chapter 8, verse number 1. You know, it always is interesting, man, to see, how many people are on time. And, it's just I don't know. Anyway, I know people, they trickle in, they come in, but let's get it. Daniel chapter 8 and verse number 1. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel. So now you have to understand that Daniel's name has been changed to Belshazzar. Okay, so you need to read through Daniel chapters 1 through 7. After that which appeared unto me at the first, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was in Shushan, in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Verse 3. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram. Now, I would write these animals down, guys, and their descriptors. a ram that had two horns. Okay? A ram that had two horns. So you want to definitely write that down. A ram that had two horns. And the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other. And the higher came up last. Now, how many know what Daniel is referring to when he said he saw a ram that had two horns? What kingdom is he referring to? Okay, so we're going to get into that. You should know who he's referring to. Verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. Now, that should be a clue and a dead giveaway for who is being referred to here. Does anybody know? Okay, that was verse 4. Does anybody know who is being referred to here? Okay, so let's keep reading. If you don't know, it's okay. Let me check something out real quick. All right. So yeah, we're gonna be in chapter 8. So let's keep going. All right. Here we go. Verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing by the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Okay? I mean, that's pretty powerful. Now, I ought to tell you that this goat that came and smote the ram that had two horns, the goat is Alexander the Great. Okay, so I thought that would be a giveaway in verse 4, where it says, and he became great. Okay. Now, who who did Alexander the Great defeat? Who were the two kingdoms that came before Alexander the Great? The Greek Empire. Okay, it was the Medo-Persian. Sorry. And that's why we have the two horns for the Medo and the Persian. Okay. And verse 8, therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, for it had came up four notable ones toward the four winds. Now, when it talks about therefore the goat, who's Alexander the Great, when it says that his horn was broken, they're referring to his death. After he died, there were four generals that took Alexander the Great's place. Okay. And those four generals, they reigned over certain areas at we'll look at it a little bit later. Okay, we'll look at the actual nations that they ruled over. But just know that four rulers came after Alexander the Great died. Okay, so verse 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. Okay, so the big horn was Alexander the Great, and it says that once Alexander the Great died, you had four other generals that came forth, and then from those four generals, a little horn. Okay, so we have the big horn. You should write this down as Alexander the Great. Then after he died, you have the four leaders, and then the little horn. Now, who is the little horn that came after Alexander the Great? Okay, notice it doesn't say he's a beast, but a little horn. Okay, that's a key. That's a clue and a key. So it says he came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. Verse 10, and it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts. And by him the daily sacrifices were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgressions of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Okay. And so, guys, tonight I want to really deal with this topic out of our series for Hanukkah called Preparation for Purpose. Tonight, we're dealing with defining what is holy. Who is defining what is holy? We see, and as we read in Daniel chapter 8, it said a few things about this little horn and what he did. Okay. Number one, it said in verse 12, and the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. He took away he took away the daily sacrifices. He cast the truth to the ground. He trod the sanctuary under his feet. Okay. He desecrated the sanctuary. And then he cast truth to the ground. I mean, he did in other words, he took the main ideas of Israel and redefined them. My goodness. Specifically, when it comes to the sanctuary and the daily sacrifice, which was Israel's way of connecting and being in fellowship with the Most High, and took what Israel considered to be holy because the Most High said, I'm going to put my name there. And this particular little horn took what was holy and redefined it. Man, we're going to get into this, guys. If I could stop coughing. Holiness has always been contested. It's been contested by outsiders. It's been contested by you. It's been contested on the inside of you. You've warred with holiness your entire life. Our entire lives, we've warred and contested with holiness. It's always been contested ground. Long before Yeshua, I want to say this, long before Yeshua walked the streets of Jerusalem, another kingdom tried to decide for Israel what holiness should look like. Yeshua did, but before Yeshua, there was another individual who attempted to decide for Israel what holiness would look like. What Israel should eat, how they should worship, and even which days were allowed to remain sacred and holy. Now, I'm a big fan of dates. Guys, you're going to need to write these dates down. They're going to be very important. In 168 BC, I would say circa. So put a little C with a period in front of 168. That means around 168 BC, circa. So circa 168 BC. Now, who is the little horn? We're getting ready to tell you. Antiochus Epiphanes IV. Antiochus didn't simply attack Jerusalem, you guys. No. He attacked their definitions of what holy means. Antiochus, guys, I want to tell you this. Antiochus understood something very dangerous that I don't even think we understand today. If you can redefine what Yah calls holy, you can redefine not only people's behavior, but you can redefine their thinking. Oh, yes. If you can redefine what Yah calls holy, not only can you redefine their behavior, but you can redefine their thinking. And once you redefine their thinking, guys, maybe it's the other way around. once you control their behavior, a person's behavior, you can control their thinking. Absolutely. If you can get people to do things over and over and over and over again, they will begin to believe that this is just the way it is. Daniel had warned centuries earlier. That's why we went to Daniel. That a ruler would rise who would change times and laws, not by removing the scripture or Torah, no, but by replacing its authority of defining definitions that are within scripture on its own, or I should say with his own definitions. And when Antiochus marched into the city of Jerusalem, y'all, many didn't even resist. They didn't even resist him. All the Jews who said they love the Most High, that they're ride or die, that they love him, that they're down with him, that they serve him, that, Lord, if you just get me out of this, I will serve you. All of those individuals who said that, they didn't even resist the change of definition. They accepted the redefinition of what holiness actually meant. They surrendered their identity quickly and quietly. Not because they wanted to worship idols. They knew the commandments. It's not because they wanted to worship idols. They didn't surrender it because they just, I desire to worship these idols and sin against the Most High. No, that's not. No. But someone else redefined what holiness meant and told them that holiness had changed. And they believed it. They believed it. The remnant of believers who looked forward to the Mashiach, they responded differently, though. They refused to let culture and this authoritative leader speak where Yah had already spoken. God, that's a dope. I mean, I shouldn't say that is a life-changing point that I need you to understand. The way you allow people to redefine certain terms and ideas is you allow people to speak where Yah has already spoken. Now, here's the problem. Because you don't know what Yah has said, come on and go with me here. You don't think it's a redefinition because you have no idea that Yah has spoke to that issue already in his word. They believe something simply, this lesson, guys, is just it frustrated me because I see our generation making the same mistakes. They believed something simple, yet it was costly. I want to say this. I don't care what the famous pastors and preachers and charismatic pastors and preachers, I don't care what they say about holiness. It does not shift because the world shifts. Are y'all with me? Are you really with me? Because this is the issue, not only in 168, circa 168, but it's the issue in 2025. That if the world redefined something because of our ignorance and not knowing how Yah has spoken, because we don't read our word, we don't study our word like we should, we fall off, we're inconsistent, we don't go in deep, we're elementary with it. We allow things like holiness, where Yah has already spoken, to be shifted and redefined. I want to say this, that holiness shifts only when we stop being dedicated and consistently offering ourselves to the one who made us holy. Come on and go with me here. That's when the world and other leaders are allowed to shift and redefine definitions of what is holy, because what we have done is we have stopped being dedicated and committed and giving ourselves to that which is holy, which Yah says is holy. This is how Chanukah began. Not with oil burning for 8 days, not with a miracle tradition, but with the crisis of authority. Oh man. With brothers, come on and go with me here, with leaders of the family bowing down and abdicating their position and not standing up for holiness. That's how Hanukkah began. So I want to make this clear. This is not a replacement for Christmas. We got to understand the real origins of Hanukkah, and it's not with miracles and it's not with oil burning, but it's with compromise, completely different from last week's lesson, where we had Abraham's ready men who were ready to fight for holiness. Come on and go with me here. Those men in Genesis 14 and 14 did not have a crisis of authority. No, they were trained and ready men. And they said, bring it. Fair use. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Law of 1976, it allows us to make fair use of materials that we will be researching, that we've researched, teaching, scholarship, um, uh, criticism. And so we have in no way violated the um, fair use law. In addition to that, we have the First Amendment right so far. That means we have the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion. I just read something where a guy in Europe was sent to prison for life for, they said they charged him with homophobic. He was a believer, and he was sharing his beliefs, and they sent him to prison for life for homophobia. Okay. So that's where we are. So last week, as I mentioned, we looked at Genesis 14, verse 14, where Abraham's trained men who were born in his house, they stood up and they rose up, they were ready, and they stood up to holiness, and they fought those wicked men who came in and were thieves, and they stole not only property, but they stole people, and they were man stealers. And those men in Abram's house were ready. Not like the men we're going to read about today. And we looked at the word for trained men, Chanukah, which is the plural of Hanuchi, from the root Hanak, which means to dedicate, to initiate, inaugurate, to train or prepare. Remember, we looked at a few scriptures, train up a child in the way they should go. It's the same root. And this training or preparation is for a specific purpose. So we mentioned last week. It is setting something into an intended function. Okay. And then we looked at how this root, let me show you the actual root. I'm just going. I'm just spinning, y'all. I'm just going. I'm excited. Yeah. Let me show you how the root. Okay. So if you're trying to take notes, I'm not doing a very good job. Okay. So you may want to take a picture of this page. This is the root here. Hanak. Okay. And this root is used in different ways. And remember, we said that these three different ways that this root is used are the three different areas that the enemy is going to attack in. All right. So we looked at Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 5, and dedicated a new house. The enemy, the first thing he's going to do is he wants to attack your home. Now, I don't mean he wants the walls and he wants the flooring. No, he wants the people that are in the house. Okay. And this is why you dedicate your home back to the Most High. And you don't allow wickedness in your home. You don't allow it. Well, I don't care whether it's on the TV, the music. And if you have children, they need to understand that they can open doors of wickedness to enter in to your home. And they need to understand that your home has been Chanukah, that it's been Hanat, dedicated back to the Most High. And so what happens in that house are things that are set apart, okay, for specific calling and usage by the Most High. It is a consecrated. How many of you guys you feel like your home is consecrated to the Most High? How many? Oh no, it's not consecrated when you have drinking parties on the weekends, guys. Come on and go with me here. You got all those spirits in the cabinet. It's not consecrated. I don't care what you say, it's just not consecrated. You doing what you want to, you doing you in that cabinet. Then in Proverbs 22 and 6, it train up a child. When it says train up, it uses our root, Hanak, in the way that he should go. Okay, again, this is an area that the enemy is going to pillage. He's going to attempt to pillage. He's going to attempt to wreck. He's going to, and listen, some of you right now are praying, you are fasting, you are suffering as well in your praying, and you're hoping, you're calling on the Most High because something has happened in the house with your child or your children, and now you are on your bended knees asking the Most High to intervene and waiting for Him, trusting in Him that He's going to do what He said He will do. Come on and go with me here. And then in 1 Kings 8 and 63, we look at how Hanak is used as well. And it's used of the temple, the place of worship, the place of dedication, the place that we're supposed to meet, the place where the word goes forth. Okay. And so this place is going to be attacked. And if you look at our congregations today, guys, they're in shambles. If you look at Christianity today, you got the most outlandish, ridiculous stuff that is going on inside of the place that the Most High says should be a house of prayer. Okay, you got fighting, you got pimping, you got cars I mean, just ridiculous. Folk getting arrested, all kind of wicked stuff is going on in the place of worship. And you can see the enemy is having his way in Christianity today. And so this term, this root Hanak, carries the idea of purposeful preparation, consecration, and setting apart for a specific calling that the enemy is going to seek to disrupt. I hope you are. And see, this makes your commitment level. You need to fill up. You need to go to the. Listen, man. You can't make excuses when it comes to areas that the enemy is going to disrupt 24/7. Here you are taking a break, and the enemy is just on his grind. There's no consistent study. There's no consistent digging into the word. There's no consistent talking to brothers or sisters about the word. The enemy is on the case. And for you, it's a cold case. We got to get back in the game. And so let's get down. That was what we went over last week. Let's get into tonight's lesson and talk about where are we in history. Now, I know that many of you despise history, not because you hate history, but because the way it was taught to you. But we're going to have to look at some dates, y'all. Very important. Okay. So you can take a picture of this, however you want to take notes on this. Here's some key dates. Daniel, the book of Daniel, was written in the 6th century. That was around the 500s. Okay. Antiochus, so listen carefully. So all of Daniel's prophecies were written in the 500s. Antiochus and Alexander the Great came on the scene 175 to 164, particularly Antiochus Epiphanes, 175 to 174. Now you got to understand about BC. The timing is counting down larger numbers to the smaller numbers. It's counting down. Okay. And the desecration of the temple was in between 175 and 164. Okay. So around 167 BC. Okay. So I want to give you some more dates, a couple more dates here. And Chanukah, the rededication, once they went through the temple being desecrated and excuse me, around 167, 3 years later, they rededicated the temple. Okay. And that was in 164. All right. And now a lot of people say the birth of Yeshua was in 4 BC, guys. I'm really researching this to find out. For me, I doubt it, but people want to come up with 4 BC, but Yeshua was born at least 160 some years later. Okay. So this crisis occurs over 130 years before Yeshua was even born. Okay, so remember, they're still looking forward to a Messiah coming. All right. And I want to show you this picture that is pretty famous of what Antiochus did with all of the furniture in the temple. Okay. That's them taking the furniture out and putting idol worship in the temple. Okay. And so now let's go to Maccabees because we're going to get right into it. We're going to get right into it. And we're going to look at First Maccabees chapter 1. Okay. Now, some of you say, you may be saying, I thought you didn't consider Maccabees scripture. I don't. I consider it to be history. Okay. And so we're going to drop down. What I really recommend is that you read, the entire, or listen to the entire book of Maccabees, guys. It gives a great window into the history. And so we're going to pull out some nuggets here. 3 things that happened in this first chapter here. Okay. And so this gives you a little history. Okay. It says, after Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came from the land of Hittim, which is Greece, had defeated the King Darius of who? Remember the little and the 2 horns that we mentioned earlier? Okay. Here they are. Persians and the Medes. Come on, don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. They won't even let me highlight. Hold on. Okay. I won't be highlighting because they're going to make me sign in. I don't feel like doing it. Okay. So we have the Persians and the Medes. It says he succeeded him as king. Okay. So he succeeded who? King Darius. Okay. So we need to, you can check this out in history. This is actual historical events being played out here. All right. But these historical events were prophesied in the Bible. We go back to Daniel chapter 8. Okay. And verse 3. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, Persia and the Medes, Medo-Persia. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. And I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither, and this was speaking of Darius, no beast could stand before him. Sorry, this was speaking of Alexander the Great. It says, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he goat, and he came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Okay. And he came to the ram that had two horns. So Alexander began to make war, as we just read. First Maccabees says, and after Alexander, who had came from the land of Greece, had defeated King Darius of the Persian and the Medes, the ram with two horns. He succeeded him as king and previously became king of Greece. He fought many battles, conquered strongholds, and slaughtered the kings of the earth. He advanced to the ends of the earth and plundered many nations. When the earth became quiet before him, he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. He gathered a very strong army and ruled over countries, nations, and princes, and they paid him tribute. Now, I want to drop down to verse 20. Okay, because now we get to after. Let's see. Okay, so look at verse 5. After this, he fell sick and perceived that he was dying. So he summoned his most honored officers who had been brought up with him from youth and divided his kingdom among them while he was still alive. And after Alexander had reigned 12 years, he died. Then his officers began to rule, each in his own place. They all put on crowns after his death, and so did their descendants after them for many years, and they caused many evils on the earth. Okay, so in Daniel chapter 8, we look at verse 8. Therefore, the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the horn was broken, or he died. And for it came up four notable ones. Okay, these four notable ones are being referred to in the book of Maccabees. But then verse 9, watch this. And out of one of them, out of one of these four notable ones, came forth a little horn. Okay, so let's go back to the book of Maccabees and verse 10. Hold on. Okay. And from them, from the four, came forth a sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay. The son of King Antiochus, he had been a hostage in Rome. He began to reign in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay. So when we talk about chapter 8 is very interesting because it continues. Remember, we said it didn't say another beast, but it said a little horn came from these four notables who came from the big horn, which is Alexander the Great. So we're still in the Greek Empire. Okay. And let's continue to read verse 11. And in those days, certain renegades came forth from Israel and misled many, saying, let's go and make a covenant with the nations around us. For since we separated from them, many disasters have come upon us. And this proposal pleased them. Who did it please? Please the Israelites. Remember I said that their leaders began to compromise. And guys, let me say this. This is what scared men do. They abdicate their position. They give up what Yah says is holy, and they don't stand for anything, and they fall for anything. Okay? And it says this proposal pleased them. It pleased the people. And some of the people eagerly went to King Antiochus, who authorized them to observe the ordinances of the nations. So they build a gymnasium. Now we can get into the nature of this gymnasium in Greek culture, but not tonight. Okay? But he authorized them to observe the ordinances, and they built this gymnasium, this perverted gymnasium in Jerusalem, according to the customs of the nations, and made foreskins for themselves. We could talk about this too. And abandoned the Holy Covenant. Okay, here it is. They abandoned the Holy Covenant. Remember, I said that usually when people redefine things, it is when you stop being committed and dedicated to what Yah has already declared to be holy and righteous. All right. Let's drop down to verse 20. After subduing Egypt, Antiochus turned back in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. Now, he had already went and changed the definitions of what holiness means. He conquered Egypt, and then he came back to Jerusalem. He arrogantly, notice what he does here. He enters Jerusalem. That's what we read in verse 20. Watch what 21 says. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary and took the golden altar. Okay. Here's the altar right here. The far right. Okay. Took the golden altar. Or no, wait, is this the... Yep, took the altar. Okay. Notice what he did here. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary of the temple, took the golden altar, the lampstand for the light, and all its utensils. He took the table for the bread of the presence, the cups for drinks offerings, the bowls, the golden censers, the curtain, the crown. Now remember, the curtain separated the Holy of Holies from the holy place. The crowns and the gold decoration on the front of the temple, he stripped it all off. He took the silver and the gold and the costly vessels. He took also the hidden treasures that he found, taking them all and went into his own land. There we go, right there. He enters Jerusalem. Antiochus enters Jerusalem, plunders the temple, and guess what? There were no men to say nothing. And authority entered what the Most High had declared to be sacred space without any male resistance to this wickedness. My goodness. Let me say this, guys. Men, I need your attention. What is your problem when you don't do anything when it comes to the authority that has been invested in you? And you sit and you abdicate and you wait for your wife to tell your children what the word is. You sit and wait for women to do this when it comes and that when it comes to spiritual leadership. And this is why. This is why you have authority, another authority, I should say, that has entered sacred space. And I wish I could show you what the Most High has. You know what? We are going to do that. Okay. Now, instead of the men being stunned, shocked, and silent, come on and go with me here. Instead of them being stunned, shocked, and silent, they should have did like the trained men in Genesis 14 and went and chased those suckers down because they love the Most High that much. Well, we got to just love our enemies and turn the other cheek. And, well, God, we just can't get into any kind of altercation. We just got to keep the peace at all times. Women, do you feel safe with a man that thinks like that? Women, I want to talk to the women right now. I need the women's attention. If you and your husband are out and another man comes and slaps the mess out of your wife, slaps you in the face, women, and your man says, baby, let's just pray. Oh my God. Mm. Mm. This is equivalent because what Antiochus did, disrespect, slap what the Most High has declared to be holy, and the men of Israel did nothing. Antiochus violates the holiest place on earth, and the men of Israel did absolutely nothing. This is not simply looting a religious site, y'all. It's the usurpation. The usurpation. It is usurping divine authority. See, you got to understand about the temple. Okay? So let's go to Deuteronomy 12. See, we don't understand about the temple. And see, here's the thing. Because we don't understand about our role in Yah's word, sit back and pray when someone slaps our wife. Oh, don't say not me. Oh, you do it all the time because you're abdicating your position already. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 12, and you can read this entire chapter, but I'm going to start at verse 5. He says, but unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes to do what? To put his name there. Now, again, when it says to put his name, that is representative of the authority of the Most High. He says, even unto his habitation shall you seek, and thither shall you come. Verse 6, and thither you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and your tithes and your heave offering of your hand and your vows and your freewill offering and your firstling of your herds and the flocks. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God. And you shall rejoice in all that you put your hand unto, you and your household, wherein the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. You shall not do after all the things that we do here this day, even, every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. For you are not as yet come into the rest or the promised land and to the inheritance which the Lord your God giveth thee. But when you go over the Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit, when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about you, so that you dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name or authority to dwell there. Thither shall you bring all that I command you, your burnt offering, your sacrifices, your tithe, the heave offering, your hand, and all your choice vows, which you vow unto the Lord. Now you got to remember, when he talks about bringing all of the sacrifices and all of the offerings, not only is he talking about Jerusalem, but he's talking about bringing these places to the most holiest place, where the Most High promises that his Shekinah glory, that his presence would meet them there. And so when Antiochus comes and desecrates and plunders the temple, and the men do absolutely nothing, the men have said, you know what? We accept another authority. And women, let me say this. If you are with a man and they don't know the word better than you, they don't know what the Most High has said and has done more than you, if they cannot lead you in the word, they have accepted another foreign authority in their life. Come on and go with me. I know it's tight. I know it's hard, but it's true. There's no look, well, I'm working on it. No, I'm talking about what's here and what's now. That's what you're dealing with. Let's go to First Kings, because First Kings gives us another look at this holy place. First Kings 8, and then we only have 2 verses here, but you can read the entire chapter, y'all. And it came to pass, when the priests would come out of the holy place, that the cloud filled the house of the Lord, his presence, so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud. The glory of the Lord had filled the house of the Lord. You know what that meant? That means that the priests were experiencing heaven on earth. They were experiencing the divine holiness on earth. In other words, the Most High was defining what holiness meant for Israel. Come on and go with me here. And when Antiochus came and violated the most holiest place, what he was really doing was redefining what the Most High had spoke and said, by my authority, I am defining what holiness is for you guys. He said, we're not going to do in this place what the other nations do around. He was defining and setting boundaries. And see, here's the thing with your family. Are people, I want you to think about your family. Who are the people in your family that try to redefine the boundaries? Come on and go with me here. What they're really trying to do is redefine what the Most High has declared. Children, listen, you're not going to come to my house and redefine the boundaries. No, no, no. And listen, adults, if your child is out of control and they come over here trying to redefine boundaries, oh, they're going to get an earful. And I dare you to say something, because then I'll give you an earful. See, that's what real men do. We don't just allow anyone to come in and redefine boundaries and sit quiet. Well, I don't want to cause any conflict. You know what? It's going to be some furniture moving, or you going to move. Somebody is going to get moved. That's not godly. That's holiness. I'm not violent. I'm a peaceful man. But you listen, you mess with what Yah has said, it's on. Let's go back to Daniel. Let's go back to some inspired word. Because when we look at what Antiochus did, and he violated and redefined the holiness, what he really did was he also fulfilled the prophecy in Daniel chapter 8. Okay, so let's go back to Daniel chapter 8 and 11. It says, yea, he magnified himself, even to the prince of the host. And by him, the daily sacrifice was taken away. We just read that. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground. That's redefinition. That's redefinition. And it practiced and prospered. This is what the little horn did. Antiochus. Are y'all with me? And so the men of Israel, their lack of response, like men today, when we have a lack of response, the priesthood was weakened. Remember the priests that were there? They did nothing. They actually said, you know what, let's believe in your gods and join what you guys are doing. Let's create a gymnasium in Jerusalem, in the most holy place where the Lord promised to put his name. From the leadership, once leadership compromises, once leadership is weak, then you have a compromised community. Come on, go with me here. And what you see in the men of that day, like you see in the men of today, is a heart that is drifting. Is drifting. The men of that day was drifting, their hearts were drifting towards Hellenism. Now, again, Hellenism is simply taking on the ways of the Greek people, taking on their culture, taking on their religion, taking on their beliefs, taking on their practices. And if you notice today, it's exactly what many men do today. Now, let me give you an example. They can show commitment to their job. They can show commitment to everything else except the business of the kingdom. Come on and go with me here. They'll study to pass a test on their job to get more money, but they won't study to enrich their lives so they can read the word, understand it, and make sure that they can teach and preach the word to give God's people a word from the Most High. They won't do it because their heart is drifting away from the Most High and drifting toward Hellenism. We could say is a type of worldly influence. Okay. And so if the people had already surrendered their identity internally on the inside, Antiochus' external acts only exposed what was on the inside of the people. Come on and go with me here. Yeah, see, you cannot blame the enemy for making you do anything. The only thing the enemy does is expose what's already in you. Oh, come on and go with me here. Yeah, this is what happens when pressure is applied, it exposes what's in you. When you get squeezed, something's going to come out. And many times we think that strength is in us, but you know what comes out? Weakness. Many times we think commitment is in us. Well, what comes out is lackadaisicalness. When we get squeezed, we think determination is in us, but what really happens is we fold like a lawn chair. The enemy only exposes what's already on the inside. Come on and go with me here. God Almighty, I feel like preaching. I'm gonna go easy, but I feel like preaching this. Let's go back to First Maccabees, and I want to drop down to uh, let's drop down a little bit to verse 41. It says, "Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom." Now again, when he wrote, he didn't fight. He didn't pull out a sword. He wrote. He redefined. Okay? When he wrote to his whole kingdom. Now, what did he redefine? Watch this. That all should be one people. Now that sounds good. Unity. And see, that's what this world wants you to be unified, right? That sounds good. Let's be down. Let's be down. Let's keep it real. We need unity. No, what we need is unity around the truth. Okay? We need unity around the truth that either Yeshua is Lord or I'm not following you. Okay? So he says this. He wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people and that all should give up their particular custom. All the nations accepted the command of the king, including Israel. Many, even from Israel, not all, but many from Israel, gladly adopted Antiochus' religion. Now, let me say something about this. Listen, I don't care. You may think you're an atheist, but you believe and have faith just like anyone who believes in Yah. You're not an atheist. You have a religion too. Okay? They sacrifice to idols and profane this. Why they had to bring the Sabbath into it? Well, because that was a major, not only practice, but it was a major part that set apart Israel from all the other nations. They profaned the Sabbath, and the king sent letters. Here we go again. He wrote and he sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem and the towns of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land, to forbid burnt offerings, sacrifices, and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane the Sabbath and festival. That means the feast days, to defile the sanctuary and the holy ones. You guys see this? To build altars and sacred precincts. Now, these altars that they were building, they weren't just building them, they were worshiping there. Okay? To sacrifice pigs, bacon, honey roasted ham. Come on and go with pork chops, sacrifice pigs and other unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane, so that they would forget the holy divine instructions that were really the authority of the Most High defining what was holy. Come on and go with me here. And change all the ordinances. He added, and whoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. Now, what you gonna do? You gonna bow down? You gonna keep Torah? Or you gonna die? Which one? I mean, not keep Torah. Are you gonna keep Torah and die? Or are you gonna bow down to the king's command? You see that? See, this was the choice. Okay? Antiochus forbid 4 behaviors, not beliefs. He forbid. Remember, I said he stopped 4 behaviors, and their belief followed. What were the behaviors he stopped? Well, the text we just finished reading says that he stopped sacrifices, which was Israel's covenant worship. He stopped them from practicing. He forbid Sabbath, which was sacred time and space. Festivals, feast days, which was sacred memory. They're practicing and commemorating these things. And then priestly holiness, sacred mediation. They could not, the priest could no longer mediate between the people and the Most High. He took it away. Okay? 4 behaviors, which led to them believing. And see, this is what Daniel prophesied. Remember, Daniel wrote in the 500s. This happened like 300 to 400 years later. Come on, go with me here. This is what prophecy is serious and exact. And by the way, this is one way to convince people that the scriptures are legit, is to show them these prophecies and how they were fulfilled. Look at Daniel 7:25. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think, to change what? Times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand unto the time and times and dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it unto the end. Okay? So this was prophesied that he would do these things. Now, next week, I'm sorry, not next week, but Shabbat, we're going to talk about who remained faithful to the Torah. Because many said many Israelites folded like a dirty, cheap lawn chair and said, yes, Antiochus, we'll join your religion, your cult. But many didn't. And so we're going to find out next week. Sorry, I keep saying next week, but we're going to find out on Shabbat who remained and who left, who remained faithful to the Torah and who left the Torah. All right. Now, let me close with 2 scriptures from Maccabees. Okay, so we're going to look at these 2. First Maccabees 153 and 162. Okay. Well, let's just start in 51. In such words, he wrote to his whole kingdom, appointed inspectors, Antiochus appointed inspectors over all the people, and commanded the towns of Judah to offer sacrifice to Antiochus' God. Town by town, many of the people, everyone who forsook the Torah, joined them, and they did evil in the land. They drove Israel into hiding in every place of refuge they had. So many of the people of Israel, they were driven into hiding because they were embarrassed that they had turned their backs on the Torah, the Most High's divine instruction, and they joined them in the evil that was going down. All right, that's one group. Now let's go down to verse 62 and see what another group did. But many in Israel stood firm and were resolved in their hearts not to eat unclean food. They chose to die rather than be defiled by food or to profane the holy covenant, and they did die. Very great wrath came upon Israel. Now, I'm going to show on Shabbat that there were three groups. There was a group that compromised, There was the group that we just read about that stood firm, but then there was another group. And we're going to find out that this group, who is the third group, even though the building was supposed to be a place of holiness, what we're going to find out, and what we should already know, is that holiness can relocate with obedience. Come on and go with me here. Even if the building is wicked, you could take your obedience and you can go somewhere else and be holy. I'm going to tell you that. I want to see, some of you are attending congregations are not teaching the word. They don't have real men that stand up and teach what thus saith the Lord, and you're giving him all your money. For what? Relocate. Listen, I'm not telling, listen, I'm telling you, I'm not telling you, listen, I am straight up. Bounce. Say, Pastor, you know what? I love you, but either you're going to change, we got to go. I'm not being fed. I'm not growing. I don't understand the word. I slip and dabble into this and that. There's no accountability. And on the other flip side of that, many people don't even want to be pastored. Oh my gosh. I'm going to get into that next week. The people that we see here that compromised that first group didn't want to be pastored. No. So they joined what was going on. So I just want to say, guys, holiness is not something that is only tied to a building, but you can take your holiness and relocate with your obedience. Blessings and shalom. I'll see you Shabbat at 10 a.m. Blessings.